So another day, same bullshit. I walked to the bus stop this morning, and I haven't been talking back to them today, or making comments, or just venting the frustration by saying anything. Usually under my breath, or usually where no one around me can hear me. So I was walking to the bus stop, and part of the way to towards the walk, they started pushing down on me. And for the past few days, as I told you, they had been for the past couple weeks, they've been pushing down on my feet, primarily the right one, and also burning it and electrically shocking it. And I told you that they haven't let this healed right there. That was caused by them. And they're telling me right now, and they've said many other times, like when they do it, that your dad will just think that the pain that you're experiencing is from those burns or sores that he doesn't care about. Remember, he doesn't care about your sores. He doesn't care about your burns. That's what they're saying to me right now, and they've said that many times before. But the difference is that I feel it on a larger area of my foot. It feels like electrical shocks. Sometimes it feels like a force pushing down on it. I can feel the roof of my shoe caving in on the top of my foot. It is impossible for that to be anything internal to the human body to feel that. So that alone, again, is proof that these are not schizophrenic voices, and that I'm not experiencing fibromyalgia and all this other nonsense that doesn't even cover everything that I'm experiencing. So certainly, if we can rule out extraterrestrial and supernatural phenomena. So a few days ago, they started. They were shocking primarily my left foot, and they're like, "We're switching over to your left foot." And then they said that to me about 3 mornings ago, I think. And then yesterday, or yesterday, the day before that, whatever the day was after they started with my left foot, then they started going down on both feet. They're like, we're balancing it out now we're attacking both feet. So I felt like something was pushing down. I felt the roof of my foot caving into the top of my foot. I felt electrical shocks, a burning sensation. The burning sensation isn't always there. Sometimes it just feels like a pressure pushing down on it with an electrical sensation. And sometimes the electrical shocks increase, and then sometimes that's accompanied with a burning sensation. The burning sensation doesn't have to accompany it. When the burning sensation does accompany it, especially when it gets a little bit more painful, they'll say like, ooh, maybe you stepped in a pile of fire ants. Does it feel like, or they'll go, does it feel like there's fire ants on your feet? And so this is what they've caused to my left foot, which was totally fine a week ago. So they can cause blisters, and they can cause sores to appear. They can cause friction to happen between your shoe. I wear very comfortable slip-on shoes. It's the shoes I'm wearing. I've walked 50 miles in one day in those shoes. The day after Thanksgiving on 2016, Dad had shoes very similar to that, but they have built-in gel insoles, and they're slip-ons, and they're basically like sneakers, but they slip on. There's no there's absolutely no reason for me to feel the roof of my shoe pushing against the top of my foot, aside from the normal shoe sensation that you feel. They're not technically laced. They have things that look like laces on them, but they're slip-ons. They're like little stretchy. You don't adjust them at all. They're just slip-ons. It just gives the appearance of laces. You don't actually tighten the laces at all. You can't even do that. So it's not like they don't feel like, whenever I put them on, they never feel like tightly tied shoes. They don't feel like loosely tied shoes. They just feel like comfortable shoes that are on you. Kitty, no. Ah! So I've walked in similar shoes, like 50 miles, and didn't have a single blister or sore on me. Just walking less than a mile to the bus stop and going to my job, which is mostly sedentary, and then walking, coming back. So I've walked less than 2 miles, each day, for the whole day. And then so now they're causing that. And they've been focusing on both feet. Now when I'm at work and I'm inside, don't usually feel those sensations. They don't. They go in patterns, and they go through phases throughout the day and throughout the week and throughout the month. They don't necessarily repeat in a reliable order. And I know they're saying we're going to make a comment on your YouTube page talking about how you're not keeping the camera on your face, and I wasn't even really paying attention to that. And they're like, but your dad's going to anyway. So they've been doing that. My feet still. They just said to me, we're increasing the buzzing in your feet right now, and yes, the buzzing in my feet, the electrical buzzing in my feet has increased, and now it's increasing some more. And they're like, we're going to increase it even more, and they just increased it even more. I'm not making that up. That is impossible for it to be something that's in my head. It's impossible for that to be anything else but something caused by real human beings that are speaking to me using voice-to-skull technology. I can feel an electrical buzzing right there in my hand. I no longer feel it as much in my toes. Now I feel it strongly in my toes, and I don't feel it in my hand. And again, like the 10,000th sanity check that I've done, probably like the 1,100 test that I've done on camera. And I don't even know if you're going to watch this video, Dad, or if you're going to watch it, Robin, and still ignore it and not talk to Dad and tell him keep telling the truth because you don't believe I'm telling the truth. But I've just demonstrated to you. Again, I'm not a liar. Don't ever call me a liar or imply that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm living through this. You are not. So that's just one of the many things that they've been doing for the past few days. So I get out of work today, and they were pounding on my back less today than they were on previous days. But there were times where they were doing it, and usually, or every single time that they increase it, they say, oh, I bet your back hurts or something like that, or try to crack your back, we'll make it so that you can't. And they make it very painful to crack my back. Especially when I try to squeeze my shoulder blades together, try to get it cracked that way. Kitty, now. So immediately when I get out of work, again, inside the job, they weren't pushing down on my feet. They buzz my feet sometimes or shock them, but they turn that down to a mild thing, and they usually focus more on my back and my hands. But I get out of work and I start to walk, towards the bus stop. And I realize that the bus just went by, so I have 15 minutes, so I'll go to walk down to the Walmart gas station to get cigarettes. So it's like, a half a mile walk, a quarter of a mile walk. I were right next to the Walmart, so I basically walked the length of a Walmart. I was on one side of the Walmart, and I walked to the other side of the Walmart. So while it is hot in Texas now, in Austin, Texas now, it is not hot enough to cause like pouring sweat or sweat to come pouring down your face when I wasn't even halfway there yet. I had to take off my hat, and they were like, oh, do you feel the sweat pouring down on your face? Kitty. And I did. And I had to take my hat off, and the sweat was starting to pour down my face, and I felt like a heat lamp on it. And then they keep doing this thing where they pretend that my dad has an investigator watching me from afar with like a thermal camera, and they're like, this won't show up on a thermal camera, or they go, oh, it is showing up on a thermal camera, and they're seeing the fact that we're causing like the heat lamp. And they're reminding me also right now that my temperature when I went into work today on my head was read at like 95 point something, so which should be a problem as well. It was like 2 degrees below normal, and I felt absolutely fine. So they might have been doing the freeze ray attack. I did feel a coolness on my head, like right when that happened, and then for a few seconds afterwards. And they're like, I wonder if that will show up on a thermal camera. But if they're outside, they won't see it. And the cameras, so they keep pretending in one of their many fictional narratives that they run in parallel simultaneously, that my dad has an investigator watching me from afar, and that they're not using the right equipment to pick up on this stuff, and they keep mentioning that there isn't equipment that can pick up on this stuff visually. But then they said, well, the thermal camera should probably show that you're hot while you're walking in the Texas heat. So of course you're going to be a little bit hotter, but it's not going to be to the degree that it feels 20 degrees hotter to you. But that won't show up on a thermal camera. I'm like, I don't know, I don't give a shit in my head. I'm just trying to ignore it. So I was pretty quiet with them all day. Also, when I gotten out from work, because I've been quiet with them all day long, and throughout the day on smoke breaks or whatever, and on lunch break, they were like, "Talk to us, you know, we're gonna try." And then like they keep taunting me to try to talk back to them. And so when I got out, then they just did the whole onslaught of things. The only way they're pushing down my feet and doing the heat thing. They're pushing against me. They're pushing with me. Sometimes when I made a step, they were causing my walk to be extremely erratic. They were like once or twice. They like hit me like right here or here in the head. For like a split second, it hurt like a motherfucker. And as I say that, they're doing that now at a less level of intensity. And as I put my hand here, I can feel, it feels like my hand's being crushed right now and electrically shocked. So it's not a pleasant sensation. And now I feel it more in my hand, and I don't feel it in my head, and I don't feel it in my hand. Now I feel it on my hand, and I don't feel it on my head. That is like sanity check number, 10,001. For the one on video, it's like the 1,102nd sanity check that I've done on video. And so they keep saying, "Oh, your dad's watching us," or they keep going like, "Oh, well, we're pretending that he's doing that, but we're not actually aware that this is actually really happening." And they also pretend to be people like my father and people that know me, or people that are investigating this, and or talking through them, talking to me. So they do that all the time too. And they'll be like, "Kip, we're watching them. It's only going to be like another day, or we're going to be rescued tonight. You're going to be rescued tomorrow." And as I say that, and as they say that at other times, they play this dun 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 dun, and they're dun 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 dun. And so they always play like this climactic music. Sometimes it's Jurassic Park, sometimes it's some other stuff. When they pretend like a rescue's about to happen. Now, when they don't pretend a rescue's about to happen, but they're just increasing the stress, and they're increasing the stress, sometimes they'll do something. One thing I haven't done in a while that they used to do over and over and over again is play the Aliens thematic orchestral score. The one that was in the climax, the dun 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 dun. And they do that over and over. And as I say that, they're playing it right now. So that's not something that's psychosomatic. It's not something that's triggering your memory. They're literally playing that right now. And now they're playing the other one. So they keep doing that. "Oh, you're about to be rescued, Kip. Yeah, everything's going to be great. Oh, your dad feels so bad about, wasting over 3 years of your life. Blah, 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 blah. He feels really bad." And usually they say in bratty girls' voice, and they go, "Your dad feels so bad about this. He feels so guilty that he didn't do what you said, and that he caused you to go through 4 stages of the suicide push, and that he wasted an additional 3 years of your life." And then another voice is going, "Not to mention the additional years or decades that have been shaved off of his life from the irreversible damage that we've caused to his body and psyche. Not to mention the additional damage to his psyche that's been caused by his father's bullshit as well." So they're saying that to me right now. And they're also going, "That's not Kip saying that, that's us saying that. And Kip is just saying what we're saying to him. So don't think that it's Kip doing a secret message to you, Dad, blah, 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 blah." So, so they were doing the onslaught when I got from work and walked to the Walmart, and then blah 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 on the bus on the way there. And they're also like, "Look at that, there's a palm tree in that guy's calf over there, look at it." I think there was a palm tree in the guy's calf. I didn't glance at it too long, but it's something that at a glance it did look like a palm tree or something, a tattoo. Or something that could be perceived that way, and they're like, "How's that? Put that in your premonition pipe and smoke it." Except we didn't say it then, but we're saying it now, because we usually do say something like that when we do tell him to look over at something, and then we say it right as he's looking over at it, either right before or right as he's looked over there, or like immediately thereafter, faster than like the brain could comprehend what it's looking at. And like, Carrie will never believe you. Carrie Kiplicone Sr. will never believe you. He really thinks these are schizophrenic voices, even though you've tried 3 different medications for schizophrenia that would have taken effect on anyone that was schizophrenic. And and then I walked back here. I then went to the store to get dog food, and for the cat and the dog. I took Max with me to the store. right as we're walking by the rent-a-center truck, the RAC truck, just like before, instead of racking me in the balls, they just pushed against my crotch. And they're going, this time we didn't push against your bladder so much, we really just pushed against your balls. But we didn't do it in so much where they felt racked, it just felt like a pressure pushing against your balls. So like, again, I felt a pressure like pushing against my balls. And I wasn't even aware the rent-a-center truck was there because I was walking back, so I was basically keeping an eye on him, just having a leisurely walk to the H-E-B grocery store. And right as the pressure happened, they did it right. They were like, you know what that means? Rent-a-center truck, and the push. So like, I could not have thought those thoughts because like I hadn't even had time to process that the rent-a-center truck was there. I wasn't even looking at it. It's just a small moving truck or delivery truck. And I wasn't even paying attention to it. I wasn't actually looking in that direction. I was looking down at Max, who was taking a piss, or thinking about taking a piss on some bushes. And then they're like, look at the rent-a-center truck. Look, well, I was actually that way, but they're like, look, right now, I guess I'm standing there, so I guess it was to my right, because I was standing somewhat perpendicular, or looking perpendicular to the sidewalk. And they're like, look, there's a rent-a-center, you know what that means? And then like, this time we're not racking you, this time we're just pushing against it, blah, 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 blah. So again, that's impossible for those to be schizophrenic voices, Dad, because I don't have the power of premonition and I don't have sight beyond sight. And there's nothing in the human, there's nothing within the human body that can cause the sensation of a force being pushed against the human body to the degree that they do it. And they've constantly been pushing against me while I've been walking. Also, back from the grocery store, I walked to a Whataburger, which is like on the, it's like just across the street from the grocery store. Well, I walked to McDonald's, and then I walked to Whataburger because McDonald's wasn't taking walk-ups, and just get some fries and a water for Max. And then after I left the Whataburger to cross the street to go back to the hotel here, they're like, oh, we've been too busy distracting, too busy like talking, and we forgot to increase the weight on the bag. So the only thing I had in the bag was this bag, which is not full at all. It's carrying it over my shoulder. They're going, it's like a crossbody, like the crossbody purses that you put up for auction for Goodwill. This bag is 4 pounds of dog food. And also in the bag with it was, it's in the freezer, was this 2-liter Dr. Pepper, which weighs less than that. So, and the other things that were in the bag were a little thing of Smokies and 4 of these extremely light Lunchable knockoffs. They're only $1 versus whatever Lunchables are, $1.50 or whatever, $1.60, whatever the fuck the price is. They're saying $1.24. I don't remember. So those were the only things in the bag. So that was less. That's less than 10 pounds. So, and I'm carrying it across my shoulder. So as I'm about to cross the street from the Whataburger, they're like, you know what that means? We're going to increase the weight on you. And then immediately after they said that, and they said it was a good few seconds between the time that we were already talking about doing it to the time that it happens, because normally it happens right around the time that we say it's going to happen, or we do a quick countdown. And this was more than a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing. This was a few seconds, and then boom, that one bag felt like it increased, or like someone was pushing down on it, and it felt more like it was 25 pounds. And then further away on the walk, and this isn't me being fatigued, like the grocery store is less than a mile away from here. It's like half a mile away from here. It's like it takes less than 2 cigarettes to get to the grocery store. So it takes about, I don't know, 7 minutes to get to the grocery store. I think roughly 8 minutes to get to the grocery store. I don't know, 10 minutes tops at a very leisurely rate. So, oh, and in the grocery store, they were doing the heat lamp on me. So in the very well air conditioning grocery store, I'm still sweating. So I didn't have a hat on me or anything. After already walking around the grocery store a bit, I'm in the checkout, and they're doing the heat lamp on me, and they're causing me to sweat at the last minute before I leave the grocery store. In the very well air conditioned grocery store where I should have felt very cool, and I did feel very cool. And now they're making a stupid comment going like, how, like, we're uncool. They're saying they do a play on words with every single word in a sentence. And they're going like, we're increasing that because we're so bored and we get away with it, and we're trying to drive you crazy, Kip, and we're trying to cause as much psychological damage and as much irreversible damage to your body as we can. Thanks to your dad not doing anything. And thanks to the fact that he'll never do something. Like, those aren't schizophrenic voices, Dad. Like, it's not, no. So the bag, so it caused the sweating in the grocery store, and as I said that, they're like, oh, do you feel the heat lamp on you? They're like, it must be from the stress of like loading the groceries into your bag. Like, yeah, like whatever, like loading that would really cause anyone to break out in a sweat in a super well air conditioned grocery store. And then, you know, they said like, talking about, oh, we forgot to increase the weight to your bag when you left the grocery store. Usually we do it right, you know, right when you step out of the grocery store, and you get your bags loaded if you haven't already loaded them, and that's usually when we do the increase to you. We usually do it right when you leave the grocery store, or before. And they're like, this time we forgot because we were flapping our mouth too much and focusing on, you know, you going to the Whataburger. And then they said, so that I guess we're going to increase it now, and then it felt like 25 pounds. And then further on the way back, it felt like it was more like a 50-pound bag. So there's no way that you can misinterpret something that weighs less than 10 pounds as weighing 50 pounds. It literally felt like someone was pushing down in the bag. I felt it pushing down in here more and digging into here more. I put much more heavier things in there, and which they've also increased in weight as well, but they've also not done that. There's no way that could ever feel like 50 pounds. Plus, I've worked out before, and so I've worked out my muscles before, and even if you work out like something with 25 pounds or 50, or let's say you're working out with something like, let's say 100 pounds, you're doing like, you're bench pressing 100 pounds. When you're done with your repetitions in a set, or even when you're done with all your sets, a lot of times people do 3 sets of 10 roughly, give or take. That's a pattern that a lot of people follow. Even at the end of like your last set, like your 30th repetition or your 10th repetition on your 3rd set, even though you might be weaker then and more fatigued then, that 100-pound thing still doesn't feel any different than 100 pounds. When your muscles are fatigued, it still feels like 100 pounds. It's just harder to lift it. It doesn't feel like it's 200 pounds, even though it might be just as difficult to lift it as like 125 pounds, 150 pounds, or 200 pounds, like one time, you know, if you know, from the very beginning, you know, when you weren't fatigued. It doesn't feel the same thing. There's a difference between feeling fatigued and having weaker muscles. It doesn't feel like the weight has increased on you. The force to keep it up or to push it up might be more, or might be the same as lifting a heavier weight when you're not fatigued, but it doesn't feel the same. And like this felt like gravity increased just on the back, and then they're also pushing, you know, to do that. Now they're pounding down on my back, and I can put my hand and forearm out here, and now my hand and forearm feel like they're being electrocuted, and they have a crushing sensation, and it hurts. And the sensation from my back briefly was diminished somewhat when I did that. And now I no longer feel it in my hand and my forearm, and I feel it more strongly in my back. It feels like someone's just into my back. It hurts like a motherfucker. They usually do that all day long. And so that's just another day of suffering, Dad. Thank you for giving terrorists yet another day of my life. You're not allowed to do that under any circumstances, no matter what, with no excuses. And you just did it again, consciously, willfully, knowingly, intentionally, actively, consciously, purposefully. So when you do that, you are making a conscious decision to make me suffer more, and to make me suffer through something that now I will suffer more for the rest of my life, and even more impossible to get over this. And it will be now an even shorter life, Dad, from the time that you've allowed to be wasted on this end of my life, and from the years or decades that you've cut short from the irreversible damage caused to my body and psyche. So thank you so much. And again, you can't be mad at me, and your feelings can't be hurt by that. It's like, if your feelings get hurt by me expressing frustration to you and anger towards you for something that like you absolutely promised to do and should have done, you know, over 3 years ago and haven't, and because of that I have been forced into homelessness and hopelessness, but for or not for your inactions, Dad, and your actions, I would have never felt probably ever in my life. So, and add on top of that a level of loneliness that I probably would have never felt in my entire life. That now all three things I will feel for the rest of my life. Thanks, or maybe not the homelessness thing, but the hopelessness and the loneliness and the angst and the frustration. I will feel that for the rest of my life. And it's only going to get worse every single day. You're not allowed to delay another second. And you just consciously delayed another second. And I don't even know if you ever watch this, or if Robin will watch this, and if she does, if she'll ever talk to you about it. And if she does talk to you about it, if she'll say anything intelligent or whatever, and I guess she's going to feel insulted that I'm saying this. I've just told you in this diatribe or whatever, in this retelling of my day, and these are just slivers into my daily life. And now they're mentioning Sliver, and they're playing a song from the soundtrack of Sliver right now. They like to do that. They like to suggest words, and then they'll play like a song to it, and they'll act like they're like, oh, we must have had that prepared, right? So I guess we prepared that in advance. How long ago did we prepare that in advance? And we just made you stutter there, and blah 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 blah. So anyway, earlier in this conversation, and they're like, was it pre-recorded? How long ago did we plan for this? Did we tuck it away and then now we're replaying it, or did we just jot it down and we just did it? Are we doing it off the cuff? They say that all the fucking time. So I've just given you a sliver into less than a half an hour of my entire day today. And so multiply, and that's not even everything that they were doing at that same time either. So multiply that by like 1 billion, or at least by like 100 at least, and that might give you a more representation of my day. Or multiply by 1,000 or whatever, and that might be a more realistic representation of my day. But just in that less than 30 minutes of condensed retelling of parts of my day today, I have already shown you proof, example after example after example, which proves that I'm not schizophrenic, which proves that I'm experiencing something that can't be caused by something internal to the human body. And remember that I have witnesses, multiple witnesses, that have felt these shocks to my feet when I was in jail, that weren't lying, unreliable junkies. Most people don't even want to go on record and tell the truth, Dad. So they gain nothing by doing that. So by doing that, they were just being brave, honest people, which is, and they want me to say, which is more I could say for you, but and they're going, but that doesn't really make sense, because that doesn't make any sense in this thing. We're trying to throw an insult there back at your dad that you would say, Kip, and it would cause him to like forget the whole like last 28 minutes and 20 seconds of the video. And like we said that as Kip glanced down into that. So did Kip read that, or did we read that? They do this all the fucking time. Now they're pounding on my back even more, and they're mentioning the fact that they're pounding on my back even more. So I've already given you like a dozen examples just within a condensed 30 minutes of parts of my day that condensed into less than 30 minutes, that already have like a dozen examples of proof that I'm not schizophrenic and that this isn't something that's caused internal to the human body. And you're still doing nothing, Dad. And again, you are not doing the right thing at all. I'm not any different of a person than I was my entire life. I've always been an honest, loving, simple-minded, non-paranoid person. I don't normally think people are out to get me. I don't normally think the worst of people. And the longer this goes on, the more that you are making a public and conscious decision stating that you don't care about me and that you want the worst for me. If you did not want the worst for me, I would have been rescued by now, successfully, with Max, successfully, without any hesitation on your part. It doesn't take that long. Don't use me as bait. I didn't mind that at the Grove when it was still like something that was, you know, intolerable, but like annoyingly intolerable, and they weren't hurting me quite as much as they are now. Not nearly as much as they are now. But again, at the Grove, they used to say, "Lift your feet off the floor, lift your feet off the floor," and then obviously I wouldn't, and then boom, boom, boom. It felt like there were firecrackers on the bottom of my feet, like it felt like I was being tased in the bottom of my feet. That's not schizophrenia, Dad. Schizophrenia doesn't coordinate with things ahead of time in your life, or even in parallel. So it's like that wasn't schizophrenic voices, you know, like detecting that my brain was like going to fire something, and there's nothing internal to the body that can make you feel like you're being tased. Not that level of electricity. You can have jolts, you can have like, you know, spasms and whatever, and you can have like tremors, you can have convulsions. They do not feel like you're being tased. Your body, your muscles can convulse without you feeling like you're being tased. It can look like it, and it can have a very similar reaction to it, but it does not feel like the level of electrical shocks that I felt on the bottom of my feet, which literally made me jump up in the air, as if literally someone had like with like a handheld taser, but it was more like pop, 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 pop. Nothing can cause that internal to the human body. So thank you, Terrace, for reminding me of that. And as they're doing this throughout the day, they will literally word how I will say that in a YouTube video, or in a YouTube video description, or in an email or text message to you, Dad. They literally will read. They will literally describe it in a way that describes it in a way that, like I've described this. Like it couldn't be misinterpreted as this. They'll literally describe that. As they're also saying something like, "Oh, I bet that hurts" or whatever, and then like one of the people will literally read it off as if they're pretending to be me retelling it to another person later in time, either later that day, as if I'm preparing the YouTube video in my head right there. That's not schizophrenic voices doing it. Like I can't even tell you how many things in parallel they're doing at the same time. They're still playing music right now. And they're also overlapping that with the Woody Woodpecker thing, which they did like a day or two in advance of a Family Guy episode that came by where Quagmire does the Woody Woodpecker thing, a parody, and like they like to do that, and they're like, oh, like isn't it just coincidence that we just brought that back up like a couple days ago, or that we just mentioned that for the first time like a day ago, or a couple days ago, or earlier today? I wonder if we looked ahead in the guide to see what episodes were going to be playing when you would be home. I wonder if we do that. They say that all the time. They're like, oh, we looked that up ahead. We knew those were coming on, and that's why we got, you know, blah, 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 blah. Like, they have way too much time in their hands. And they're like, and we get paid to do this, on duty and off duty. Like, they're the most immature, the most evil people in the world. And if you don't do something immediately, Dad, you're already just as bad as them. And you can't be angry or insulted by that, because it's true. It doesn't matter that you don't believe me. I mean, it matters that you don't believe me. But again, you have been disproven. You've been wrong on so many things. You said that you didn't believe that I'd actually had my labs done when I said I had my labs done. Why would I lie about that? I don't lie for one thing, and why would I lie about that? And it had nothing to do with the conversation anyway. And they're going, we put those thoughts in your head, Carrie. We do that. So when Kip's trying to tell you about something, we distract you, and then we try to bring up something that you think Kip has to do, as if it's like an agreed upon task thing, even though it's none of your business, and even though it has nothing to do with anything, but it's something that he should do personally, and it's none of your business to keep on him about that. And he did do that, and we did that to you when he was kicked out of the Manor house. You reminded him that he needed to get treated for neurosyphilis, and when Kip was yelling at you when he was at a storage facility after he got kicked out of the Manor house. And we put that in your head, Carrie, and you're not going to believe that these are real people telling you this, but we were literally suggesting that to you subliminally, and you literally, like, when Kip was like yelling at you because of your horrible lack of reaction to and so indifference to him being ripped out of his bed for no reason, and kept in a crazy ward when he kept repeating to people, I'm not thinking about hurting myself or anybody else. My landlord took a hammer to my door. This is literally what they're saying to me right now, including literally what I just said there. They're literally saying that as well, including literally saying that to me right now as well, again and again and again. And they're saying, and so Carrie, to get back on track, like, we literally were putting that thought in your head. So Kip was like, you said you were going to help him out with the place, and you literally were doing like a checklist when he was literally like after hours, and he was about to get kicked out of a storage unit with another person that had already paid for a hotel for 2 or 3 days, and for Kip. And Kip was literally there, like desperate for you to. He was literally homeless, and he was freezing his ass off inside one of his storage units, which had no space in it. And we literally suggested you, Carrie, to like mention the neurosyphilis thing, which he had already treated for it, but apparently you'd forgotten about that. 7 months prior to you, 6 or 7 months prior to that day, that he was, which would have been at the beginning of February 2018. And we're saying that in a way that makes it sound like Kip is thinking about it, but Kip isn't thinking about it, but it certainly looks and it sounds like Kip is saying about it, but he's literally pausing because he's literally waiting for us to say something, and so it makes it look like he's thinking of the dates. But it was actually, yes, it was. It was 2019, and when he was yelling at you, and he had treated for neurosyphilis June and July, because it crossed over the month there. He was in the hospital for 2 weeks. On IV therapy, and then so 7 months later, Carrie, like, he's yelling at you for your indifference to him being ripped out of his bed for doing nothing wrong, and for you then to create a checklist of things that were required for you to agree to get, which you didn't bring up before, and you brought up the neurosyphilis thing, and Kip's like, what the fuck is he talking about? I already treated for that, and that's not a priority anyway, because even if I hadn't treated for it, that takes decades. And then, Carrie, we pushed it in your head at that time, well, if you have HIV, it could advance faster, which isn't true if your T cell counts are at a high enough level, which Kips have never been lower than any level to be concerned about. What's the word that we're thinking? And we're literally pretending to think of the word for it, and we're pretending to think of the word for it. Opportunistic infections is the word that we're trying to think. Pretend to make Kip look like he's thinking about, and he's literally saying verbatim what we're saying to him right now. And so, like, you said that, Carrie, and Kip was like, I've already treated for that, and even if I hadn't, it wouldn't matter, because that takes decades for any symptoms to occur. It couldn't be causing any of the things I'm going through now, which are of the utmost priority, because I'll die from this before anything like that. But in any case, I've already treated for that, and I already have meds, and I'm on meds for HIV, blah, 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 blah. And then, Carrie, you're going over this checklist of things that we're suggesting to you that have already been done or have nothing to do with the more immediate needs of Kip. And then, like, that's why Kip gets so frustrated with you. And then from your point of view, you're like, well, I'm just creating a checklist of things that aren't my business, and that and I treat Kip like he's a child, and like it's like it has nothing to do with Kip being homeless. The utmost priority is him being homeless, and actually the even more uttermost. And we're making a cow joke now, as we say that. And we're trying to make the video go on and ramble longer, because then it sounds like Kip is just a crazy person when we do this. And Kip is literally just saying things that people are saying to him right now via voice of skull. And Carrie doesn't believe us. He doesn't believe that we exist, even though Kip has proven that we exist. all dating all the way back to October of 2016, when Kip keeps reminding his father. And then, Carrie, we also make you get annoyed when Kip mentions this again, but you really don't have a defense to this, and it doesn't matter. You shouldn't be in opposition to Kip. You shouldn't be playing defense for the terrorists that are attacking Kip. You shouldn't be an obstacle to him, but you're still going to be an obstacle because we made you an obstacle. And whether or not we're on you or not now, which we still are, but Kip doesn't believe or disbelieve that. But you shouldn't be like an obstacle at all. And we keep making you an obstacle every step of the way, even though you promised an investigation, which would have blown the lid off this whole operation, as Kip warned officers back in 2016, November 2016, the day of Thanksgiving, or the Thanksgiving night actually. And this is literally what. And did that sound like a different voice there when we said when we said the day of Thanksgiving, and then it went Thanksgiving actually? Did that sound like a different voice? That's because it was a different person that was chiming in there. And so anytime that happens, Kip's mimicking us to a certain degree, or to a high degree, and he literally only holds back on that when we do really annoying voices like we're doing right now. In parallel, there's another person saying, like, I sound really annoying, and Kip really changed his voice right there, because we're saying it via voice to skull, and when we do it via voice to skull, it can change your voice like that, and we can change your voice like that, and we can do this, and we can talk, give you like a New York accent, and we can talk like this, and see, does this sound like Kip? And now it's just going to seem like Kip is crazier. Another thing that we did to Kip, Gary, is that we mimicked a stutter of a guy that Kip was in a cell with. Several months after he had left jail, when he was at the Grove, and we mimicked that stutter exactly. And then we're like, hey, remember that guy? Hey, you just did the stutter exactly like him. We just made you do that. Isn't that very interesting, Kip? Or Carrie? So, like, this is literally Kip saying what terrorists are saying to him, and he's probably going to stop now. Oh, we just made Kip fart there. Oh, yeah, Kip, you forgot to mention the other thing. So, also, when I was at work today, they kept giving me the sensation more and more throughout the day of, like, there was something in between my butt crack. And it somewhat mimicked the feeling that a little piece of poop had come out of my butt, but it was really going in the opposite direction. But it was moving so slowly because those things can push, and they also do this thing that they've been doing for the past few days, and they brought it back, but they did a long time ago. It used to irritate the fuck out of me. It's still very irritating. Is they put the beam between my legs, so when I'm walking, so it feels like there's like a pipe, like think of it like a pipe, like that big, between my legs, but it's like a force. So when I'm walking, it's like something pushing against my thighs, like that. It's really fucking annoying. They'll do that with my butt crack as well, to a smaller diameter. And they were doing that today. And they're so patient because they have nothing better to do. They'll literally increase something so slowly throughout the day. And like I felt it like halfway through the day or a third of the way through the day. And I'm literally hearing them talk about it with each other. And then one guy's like, oh, I'm pushing a piece of poop out your butt, which they can do as well. But like this one was more apparent that it wasn't mimicked close enough that was the direction it was going in. It was going in the other direction. So it literally is like someone fingering my asshole, or someone fingering my butt crack very close to my asshole, Dad. So you're literally letting me get sexually assaulted throughout the day. There's no human condition or disease or malady that makes it feel like there's something that's stuck between your thighs, pushing against them, or something that feels like it's going in your butt crack, or playing around with your butthole, going inside your butthole. And as I'm saying that, they're pushing against my testicles now, pushing them between my legs, which I didn't feel. I've been pacing around now for a few minutes. I didn't feel that until 10 seconds ago. And as they started doing it, they're going now. Oh, as we're talking about the thigh thing and the butt crack thing, now we're using it to push your testicles between your legs. And they're going slightly different than when you pass the Renaissance Center or rack truck, because that was more of a feeling like this, and this feels like it's more pushing on your scrotum between your dick and your balls, but also pushing on your balls a little bit. But which they're correct. It's a slightly different sensation, and they can refine it to fine tune it to the point, and they'll describe it perfectly because they know exactly what they're doing. So I'm literally being sexually assaulted again. As I'm saying that to you, Dad, and you don't believe it, there's no disease or whatever that can make it feel like something's pushing. I'm standing still right now. I'm in gym shorts and loose boxer briefs. So there's nothing that's hugging my balls. So there's no reason why they should feel like they're being pushed in between my thighs. Like I'm not like squeezing them together or whatever. And like as I'm pacing down, they just started up again. It's like, and they're not stuck to my thighs. It literally feels like someone's pushing against my scrotum. So thank you so much, Dad, for another day that you've given to terrorists. And as I say that, they're increasing the pain to my back, and they're going, we want to make you, it hurts so bad that will make you cry. Oh, the other thing that they said when I left work, they said this all the time anyway, is the suffering will only end if you kill yourself. So the only way to end this is to kill yourself. So thank you, Dad, for I would have never heard them say anything like that at all, but were it not for you failing to do what you promised to do over 3 years ago. So thank you so much for that. And you can't be angry at anything that I'm saying unless you're angry at yourself. You can't be angry at me, you can't be upset with me, and your feelings can't be hurt. I've said nothing to hurt your feelings. I've said nothing hateful. I've said, I'm the one that's hurt. And who knows if you ever watch this. But they've given me a suggestion as to writing postcards or writing letters out to you, transcribing these videos, and then sending them to you in the mail. Not that you'll read them any differently than than you watch the videos. But again, I don't have the power of premonition. And as I say that, the terrorists are saying, and Carrie, every time he says that, you probably feel very annoyed, or a wall goes up, and you get very annoyed by him saying that, or mentioning 301. The guy in 301 had his stolen phone and hacked his Google account. He's like, you're going to continue to be annoyed by that. That should not annoy you at all. Kip is annoyed by repeating it, because the first time he told you that, you should have been like in the video that you didn't watch, the 1.5-hour video that he worked on for weeks, getting, trimming down hours of footage down to an 1.5 hours, which is less time than you would normally spend talking to him on the phone over, over a few week period or a few months period, if you were in good standing with each other. So it really shouldn't be a burden for you to watch that. You're retired, you have an 1.5 hours of your time to watch the video, especially when Kip spent hours and 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 hours on that, trying to make it more digestible and less bloated. And you've insulted him greatly by not even watching it. And you shouldn't take a notepad down, and like you alluded to, like you were going to respond to every single one of those points, possibly still commenting that you weren't even sure if you were going to watch it. It's like every single one of those points is a valid point, and it's something that you do not have a defense to. And again, you shouldn't be playing defense for terrorists. You shouldn't be in opposition of Kip. But you're going to continue to get annoyed by every time we mention 301 or a stolen phone, or having his Google account hacked. You're going to continue to be annoyed by that, and you're not going to believe that these are real people. But we make you annoyed by that, and whether we're on you or not, and Kip doesn't believe or disbelieve this, says one of the other terrorists next to the guy that's saying the other things, including that disclosure there that was not a disclosure made by Kip himself. But we're going to continue to make you angry every time, and it's like there's nothing about that should make you angry, Carrie. Like, he literally would never have suspected or guessed that the guy in 301 had his stolen phone or hacked his Google account, because the guy who stole his phone or didn't return his phone to him was a guy that he left his phone in his vehicle, and he did not return that phone to Kip, and he did not stay at the hotel, and Kip had no reason to know that he even knew the guy in 301. He has no idea how they knew each other. But there were some other things that we did that he doesn't usually mention, like we did a little Simon Says with him, where we said, hey, we're going to make that guy come out, the guy that stole your phone, look like your people, we're going to make him go to his truck, and we're going to do some hand signals, and then we're going to go back, and he's going to come back. And so we did that a few times, and that's also impossible because Kip doesn't have sight beyond sight, and he couldn't have predicted that. Whether or not the guy was in on it with that Simon Says thing, or whether or not we were just describing what was about to happen, which was outside of Kip's view, but would be in Kip's view in a few seconds if he kept looking at the peephole, as we instructed him to do. There's no way that Kip could have known that that would happen. It wasn't like a one-time thing. It happened over and over and over again. So it's just countless of examples that started in October of 2016, where Kip knew all along that we weren't schizophrenic voices, which he assumed was the likely case when he first heard us a month earlier, when proving that he was never in denial of that. He even went on, when he knew we weren't schizophrenic voices, to take 2 different schizophrenic meds and then forcibly injected with one or more later, and none of which did anything because we're real people. And so we're going to end our diatribe through Kip right now. Kip is still saying verbatim what one or more of the terrorists are saying through his mouth. And Carrie, you'll never believe this because we're on you, or we were on you, and we've already planted the seed of doubt, of such a doubt, that you refuse to believe that Kip is telling the truth, not just unless it's just the truth from a deranged person. Does Kip sound like a deranged person? Does he seem like a deranged person? We're making him short of breath. So I guess those are schizophrenic voices, or Kip is faking it. So, and we just made him fart again. So isn't that fun? We make him fart all the time. We can push air out there, and he can tell when we're doing that. That's so funny. So I'm still waiting on a rescue, Dad. And that was literally said by a terrorist, and so through Kip.